ergometer high-intensity interval training practice on bone health in adolescent females compared to a control group. In a specific primary objective, we want to analyze the effect of 12 weeks of high-intensity interval training on bone markers of forgiveness and resorption among female adolescents compared to a control group. Secondly, we want to analyze the effect of 12 weeks of high-intensity interval training on static markers that will be the bone mineral density, geometry, and bone strength in female adolescents compared to a control group. This project was submitted and approved in the Ethical Board of São Paulo State University and was submitted to registration in the REBEC, that is a Brazilian platform for registrations of clinical trials. This study is gonna be conducted in Brazil, in the São Paulo state, more specifically in the city of Presidente Prudente, that has about 240,000 inhabitants. That's gonna be a randomized clinical trial with female adolescents aged between 14 and 18 years old. So to participate in the study, we adopted some inclusion criteria that are the adolescents may be between 14 and 18 years old. They must have already gone through MENAR. They must have passed 1 year of peak height velocity. They must not be diagnosed with any osteometabolic disease, and they must not use corticosteroids for the last 3 months or more. They also may not be engaged, they can't be engaged in organized sports that is more than 3 weekly hours under coaching supervision for the past 6 months, and may present a body mass index under 25 kilograms per meter square. They also must present consent and assent form signed by the adolescent and her legal parents. So those adolescents will be scheduled to come to the university. We're gonna keep the envelope, the OPAC envelope, with information regarding the group in which they will participate. That will be a random process using a software. And then we're gonna do all the measures, the data collection, the first data collections, where we're gonna assess their anthropometry variables, perform the DXA analysis, and apply all the questionnaires that are included in the studies. Then the adolescents will go under a progressive report protocol. If they are in the bicycle group, they are gonna perform the protocol on the bicycle. And if they were randomly allocated in the treadmill group, they're gonna do this protocol running in a treadmill. Then we're gonna deliver the accelerometers and instruct them how to use the accelerometers. And finally, we'll schedule the collection for blood analysis in the laboratory of the city. Regarding the incremental test protocol, they are going to be performed, as I said, in a treadmill and in a bicycle. In the treadmill, they're going to perform a 4 minutes warm-up with a setting of 2% inclination and an initial velocity of 5 kilometers per hour. We're going to increase after this time, we're going to increase the velocity up to 8 kilometers per hour. And this velocity will be increased by 1.5 kilometers per hour every minute until voluntary fatigue. After this moment, they're gonna go through a cool down of 3 minutes with the same setting of the warm-up. In a bicycle, they are gonna do the same 4 minutes warm-up in a set of 60 to 80 watts of power in the bicycle, depending on their fitness level. And we're gonna increase the power in 30 watts every minute until voluntary fatigue. After that, they are gonna do a 3 minutes cool down with 60 watts power in the bicycle. During all this period, we're gonna monitor the internal load, applying the board rating of perceived scale, and monitoring their heart rate through a Polar V800. The intervention protocol are gonna last 12 weeks, and in the treadmill, they are gonna perform 2 sessions in a week. It's gonna start with a 5 minutes warm up, and they will go through 8 to 10 bouts of 1 minute at maximal velocity, reached in the incremental test interval, by 1 minute of passive resting. At the end of every effort stage, we're gonna assess their heart rate and their perceived exertion through the board scale. After the efforts. In the bicycle, they're gonna do 2 times training sessions per week with a 5 minutes warm up, with also 8 to 10, 1 minute at maximal power reached in the incremental test, interval by 1 minute of passive resting. Their heart rate and exertion scale will be assessed by the end of every stage. So the timeline of this project are gonna happen in the baseline assessments will go under 2 weeks, and where we're gonna do the randomization process. We're gonna assess their physical activity through accelerometry. We're gonna perform all the DXA scans, the blood analysis, apply the questionnaires, and do the incremental test protocol. So when the intervention protocol starts, we're gonna monitor the control group and apply the intervention protocol for 12 weeks. And after that, we're gonna do the follow-up assessments during the DXA scans and blood analysis, and also the questionnaires, final questions. To characterize our sample, we are gonna do assess their somatic maturation through the Moore equation that provides us the peak of height velocity that presents the time in years remaining when the value is negative, or past when the value is positive to the peak of height velocity. To assess the physical activity level, we are going to use the accelerometer GT3X from Actigraph that is going to be placed in the right iliac crest. We're going to use the device for 5 days, including weekend, and we're going to exclude the first and the last day of the analysis. We're going to use them to take off the device during shower and activities that might damage the device. To be a valid measure, we consider that they must use a minimum of 10 hours per day. And if they do not use the device for more than 20 minutes, we are going to consider this time as a non-use time. We're going to classify the physical activity intensities of light physical activity, moderate physical activity, and vigorous physical activity according to Edward cutoff points that are going to be analyzed in the ActiLife 6 software. We're also going to assess their actual physical activity through the big questionnaire that provides us the physical activity level in 3 domains: in the work and school domain, in the sport domain, leisure time excluding sport activities domain. All the blood analyses are going to be performed in a private and certificate laboratory blood analysis, clinical analysis from the city of Presidente Prudente. The blood analysis, in the blood analysis, we're going to collect P1 and P concentrations in the blood, CTX1, vitamin D, and calcium, and we're going to schedule all the analysis, the collecting of the blood samples before 9 a.m. in a fasted state of 8 hours. The kit that is going to be used to analyze those variables is the Roche kit of electrochemiluminescence. And all the protocol are going to be followed by the professional nurses of the clinic. The DXA of the model Project Primo is going to be used to assess their bone mineral status. We are going to perform 3 scans, a whole body scan to assess the fat mass, lean soft tissue, and bone mineral content and BMD per segments. We're going to assess a dual lumbar scan to assess the BMC and BMD of the spine L1 to L4. And we are also going to assess the dual femoral neck scan in the side of the hip to assess the bone mineral density of the femoral neck. Using the scan of the left side of the femoral neck, we are going to assess the variables of geometry and strength of the bone using the hip structure analysis. So we are going to collect the cross-sectional area, that is the total surface and area of bone in a cross-sectional slide after excluding the spaces occupied by marrow and other soft tissue within pores. We're going to assess the cross-sectional moment of inertia that represents the distribution of bone mass around the center of the structure. We're going to assess the modulus section, that is an indicator of maximum bending strength in a cross-section. And we're going to also assess the buckling ratio, that is the structural instability index, and the program itself calculates the strength index, that is an indicator of resistance to fracture of the hip. Our sample size was calculated based on the variations observed in the study of flu. We used the BMD variations that presented a variation of 4.8% on lower limbs after of BMD after 8 weeks of high intensity. And we used this variable because there was no study available comparing, assessing the difference of the bone markers in a protocol, in a longitudinal protocol. The alpha was defined as 5% and a power of 8% with a dropout of 20%, resulting in 15 adolescents per group. Our statistical analysis, we're going to test the normality of the data using Shapiro-Wilk test, Z-score of cortolysis and asymmetry, or graphical visualization of histograms. Data will be presented whenever it's possible using mean and standard deviation and confidence intervals. We're going to do repeated measures ANOVA with a bump and post hoc to assess the differences between pre and post workout training variables. And we're going to do an independent measures ANOVA to analyze the difference between the 3 groups that are going to be assessed in the study. Eta squared will be used as a measure of effect size. All these data are going to be performed use the SPSS statistics and adopting a confidence interval of 95%. Our work schedule consider basically semesters of the year, where in the first semester of my my master's degree, we approved the project in the ethical board and registered it in the REBEC, and also did all the classes from the program. In January and February, we started the promotion of the project. During March and August, we are going to do the pilot, and also in September to December, we are going to do the intervention. There is an intention of doing an international internship during September to December. We pretend to submit 3 original articles from this project and participate in 3 scientific events during the whole year of 2023 and 2023 and 2024. And in January to July, I'm going to start writing my master's dissertation. Again, I want to say thank you to you all, especially to the evaluation board for being here and watching my presentation. I want to thank those of you who came, who took some of your time to be here with me. And thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Good, Hermie, good. Professor Dimitris Panajota, Hermie. Okay, we will start the second phase. I would like to say, no, we can recover this phase for Pedro recover the discussion late.
Can we, sorry, guys, can we record this because we will try to look all the details, all the comments in order to have a better reviewer version. You guys allowed me to record this?
Yeah.
Okay, just give me 1 second, please.
Panayota, do you want to start first? Or you want me to start? I don't mind.
Sure, I don't mind. I can start and then you go.
It's recording, guys. Thank you.
And thanks so much for accept the Pedro and the Romulo's invite. Is present for our post-graduation program. We would like to invite the Professor Panajota to start this discussion with Pedro. And Professor Panajota had between 25 and 30 minutes for this discussion, okay?
How long did you say?
25, I think.
Oh, that's a long time. Okay, no problem.
We don't need to use all of it, I think.
No, I won't use all of it. Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Who are the rules? Sorry.
Yes. Pedro, that was a very good presentation. Thank you. It was clear. The background information on bone metabolism was well done. So what I'm going to do with my questions is that I'm going to start with the background and like the basic physiological functions, just to make sure that you understand the bone metabolism. And then we'll talk a little bit about your protocol and ask you a few questions and see if we can improve a few points. Okay.
Okay.
So, so you talked about this osteoblast and osteoblast balance. So, is always if bone resorption markers are elevated, it's always a bad thing.
If it's always a bad thing?
Yes.
No.
So if you see some elevation in CTH, what could that mean?
If I'm not wrong, that would mean that there's not only a bad increase in the bone resorption process, but there's also a need for some, for example, calcium. There's a need of calcium to other tissues to be used, and so that's not only bad to have the osteoblast activity increased.
Right, because it could also actually mobilize bone formation, right? So increase in bone resorption could actually be a feedback loop for increased formation. So what would we need to do in order to verify if what you see in the bone markers is actually either anabolic or catabolic?
That's a good question. We will need to assess the level of the activity of the osteoblast through the time, through a long time. to
Well,
see
yeah,
if they
one,
inactive and they also less activity are not following that.
right. So could you do a ratio? Could you
Yeah.
use some type of calculation to see if what you see in CTX is paired with P1 and P?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there are some ways to calculate actually bone turnover instead of just, I mean, it's important to see separately what CTX does and what P1 and P does, but then you can calculate actually using both the bone turnover itself, the rate of bone turnover, and see if, because if CTX increases, but P1 and P increases too, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so that's good. What do you know about the timing of bone turnover?
Sorry,
How long
the
does it
audio
take?
is really bad. I
Newborn.
could not understand.
Okay. Professor Panagiota, sorry. Are you stop the time? No worry. Please just let me try to change our sound here in the room. It's a little bit noisy. Just give me 1 minute to try to correct that. And please,
Yeah,
please,
I
I'm
also
sorry
have
to interrupt.
Yeah, I also have some echo. So I keep hearing myself. So it's very difficult for me too. So there is some, yes, you're right.
Okay, just give me 1 minute. Fecha o som deles, Ricardo. Desligou o deles já? Tá demorando?
Não.
Ok. Deixa eu pensar. Ah, não, ó. Desligou?
Vai.
Oi. Alô. Okay.
Yeah.
Dimitris and Panagiota, can you hear me?
Yes, now it's better actually.
Now it's much
Oh, just
clear.
give me 1 second. The sound here is much better right now. Just okay. I try your sound. Okay. Try.
Just
Try
say
your
something.
sound now. It's better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sure.
So, Professor, can you hear me well?
Yes, now I can hear you with less noise. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
with-
much less noise. Yes, thank you. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No problem, but okay. And we'll go back to the questions, right?
Okay.
Okay. So my last question, I mean, we just agreed that we need to also calculate bone turnover rate.
Yeah.
Because simply CTX and P1 and P alone do not necessarily reflect, the balance between the two processes, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, my next question is, you have a 3-month, 12 weeks intervention. What do you know about the osteogenic timing? Like, how long does it take to see meaningful changes to first bone turnover and then second to bone mineral density?
First, in the bone turnover markers, if I'm not wrong, 3 to 4 months of time, and in the bone mineral density and static markers, that there would be necessary at least 6 to 8 months. Is it correct?
Do we know if this timing is in adults or in younger individuals?
In adults.
In adults.
Yeah.
So why did you decide then to measure bone mineral properties if it takes 6 to 8 months?
Basically, our main goal was to analyze the bone turnover markers, and as we are assessing them, we would also assess the BMD because of availability of our equipment here in the laboratory. So they were basically, we know that the analyzing BMD would be fragile because of this time that we are speculating that would be the same for adolescents, or we would need some time, extra time, more than three months. But we are going to assess that just to see if this time would also present any alterations in the bone due to the protocol of the high intensity interval training.
In fact, I agree with you. I agree you're doing it, and it's not the right answer to say just because we have the equipment. So I encourage you to make the rationale stronger for bone mineral density. I think you can, because everybody says, oh, you need 6 months at least, and so on and so forth. But all this data and all this opinion of the 6 months is in adults.
Yeah.
I actually disagree. You may actually see changes after 3 months in this group, because this is growing skeletons, and nobody dared to do that. And I think it's time to do that. So I actually like the fact that you are measuring bone mineral properties, but you have to strengthen the rationale in your write-up. Okay, because
Thank you.
I think you can. There is
I agree with that. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. Okay. The next thing is, what do you know about osteocytes?
Osteocytes are the main cells in the bone responsible for I forgot the word, but they receive the signals of mechanical deformations of the bone and transform it into signalings for the other cells of the bone. So they basically are precursors of this turnover process.
Right, they're the precursors. So if you do high impact, would you stimulate osteocytes more than when you do low impact?
Yeah, according to the literature, the impact in the bone is the main predictor of those process of remodeling and modeling process.
Okay, and how would you know that? Is there a way to measure if one versus the other actually stimulates osteocyte activity more?
I'm not aware of that.
Are there any bone markers, like any circulating indicators of osteocyte activity?
Of the osteocyte activity. I know other markers such as osteoprogesterone, and I know Henkel may have an impact on this process, and I'm not really sure if there's one that represents the osteocyte activity. I could not name one.
There is one that is only secreted by osteocytes, or so we think. Have you heard of sclerostin?
Sclerostin, yeah.
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 So it may just be interesting because there are some papers indicating that there is a small difference when you do high impact versus low impact, but not at high intensity. But anyhow, it may be you have the blood. It may be interesting. Even OPG and Rankle, it's all about money. You know, more you measure if you have the blood, you may have more information of the precursors of what you see in CTX and P1 and P. Not necessarily, but maybe a good idea to understand a little bit the metabolism a little bit after the training.
Yeah.
But let's go to the protocol. Your exclusion criteria. You exclude those with taking corticosteroids.
Yes.
What about those who are on oral contraceptives?
We are assessing. We're gonna assess if the adolescents are taking steroids-based contraceptives. But to be honest, we're gonna only control that because so far we are not we are recruiting the adolescents, and most of them are not using contraceptives. So we still have a doubt if we include those adolescents taking, or that eventually, or exclude those who start taking contraceptives based on steroid hormones, because that, I believe, would have some impact on the bone development. Because from studies that I read, those types of contraceptives may promote, may have an impact, and even a positive impact on bone development of adolescents.
Of the two sex steroids, like estrogen and progesterone, which one is the one that has the highest impact on bone?
Estrogen.
Estrogen, yeah. And you cannot control, when you test, you test before and after, right? At two time points. You cannot control for menstrual phase, nor you need to, because if you're looking for some of our publications, we actually prove that there is no difference in bone markers across the menstrual cycle. However, yeah, look at it. Is Guzman.
Yeah, because the last papers, we are trying to control the timing of the blood sampling, because there are some studies, I didn't see that one from your group, but yeah, they said that the timing may have some impact on the concentrations of those markers. So that's a really interesting thing to know.
Yeah, look at it. The name is Guzman. She was my master student.
Oh, Guzman, yeah.
Study. Yep. And we proved that in most of these markers, there's no effect of menstrual cycle. However, because these girls are developing, they are adolescents, so they are at different gynecological menstrual age, I suggest you measure estrogen anyway.
Okay, so
you don't need to control for the phase as far as you measure estrogen. Is there again? If you have the blood, you can measure anything in the blood. So it's not a big deal to measure estrogen, and it's not expensive at all.
Is there a time point during the cycle that I should measure the estrogen?
No. When they come, when you test.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will not.
So now you're frozen.
Sorry, Professor. I lost connection for a moment.
I lost connection for a moment.
Yeah, that's
so,
okay.
So you're saying that I would not need to schedule the adolescents to the blood collecting according to their menstrual cycle?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Which will make your life easier, because you have
much easier, yeah.
Much easier.
Yeah.
But because you have the blood, right?
Yeah.
You measure CTX, P1 and P, and you just keep a little bit of blood to do a simple ELISA estrogen. So at least you have estrogen levels, and you can use it as a covariate, and I'm sure it's not going to play a role.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great to know.
Yeah, so that makes your life a lot easier, because this type of studies is very difficult to schedule them. and you have to have them at the end of 12 weeks. You cannot just wait another 3 weeks simply to be in the same phase, right? So that will create more issues than less in terms of methodology. Okay, next, you measure calcium in the blood?
Sorry, Professor, I couldn't understand you.
So you
insulin.
No, calcium.
Yeah. There are some analyses that we are going to perform. To be honest, the project has a budget. There was a budget problem. So there are more variables that we intend to analyze, and insulin is one of them.
No, not insulin. I don't care about insulin.
Oh,
calcium.
Not insulin?
Calcium. Why do you measure
Calcium. Yeah, calcium and vitamin D. We are gonna use that as a measure of nutritional status of the adolescents.
Okay. Why in blood? Where do you usually measure? What medium you usually use to measure calcium?
Sorry, Professor, we had a problem with the audio. Could you say it again, please?
Yes. So usually, in what medium, in what tissue do you measure calcium?
In what tissue do I measure calcium?
Yeah, in what medium do you measure calcium, in blood or in urine?
In blood.
Okay. Usually we measure calcium in urine.
In urine. Okay.
Because I'm not sure what blood calcium shows.
Okay.
Right? And the other thing is, what about dietary intake? You have a lot of measures of physical activity. You have the accelerometers and so on. What about dietary intake? Are you going to measure that?
No. We have no questionnaires. I mean, we in the project, we didn't propose to analyze that because we thought that analyzing vitamin D and calcium would be enough. But yeah, I agree that we should consider analyzing through using a method.
Because what other dietary factors actually can affect bone? What about total energy? What about protein?
Yeah, they can have a significant effect on bone development. Yeah, you're sure.
They can have a lot of effect, especially total energy balance. It's important, and because you increase their expenditure with your program, you need to know if they are at energy balance. So I suggest you use either a 3-day food record or a 24-hour food record in each of the test points to see if they change their nutritional intake, right? So it's very important. The same way you measure their expenditure, their physical activity, you also have to have a questionnaire that will give you energy intake. You can do that with a fast frequency questionnaire, although most of them assess 6 months, so they're not very good for your study. But you can use a 3-day record, food record, and then analyze protein, energy. You can analyze calcium intake, then you don't need to measure calcium in the blood, which doesn't show much, right? Because in the blood, you only see what is circulating, but that depends on activity, on where the needs are, and so on. So calcium in the blood is actually not necessary. You save money there. But you analyze vitamin D, yes, I agree, but then you also analyze food intake, where you can calculate calcium intake, energy, and protein. And I think that was something missing because of you analyze expenditure but not intake. So that will keep the balance. Now, the other question, sample size calculation. You presented the alpha, you presented the power, 80%, but what about effect size? What effect size you used to calculate sample size? Was it medium or high? When you calculate a sample size, you also need effect size, like the eta square, at what level is going to be. I can't hear you now. You're muted now.
Can you hear me now? Just 1 second, Professor. Just 1 second.
No problem.
We were trying to use a microphone here, but it didn't work. I really can't remember now what was the real value of the effect size that I used. I should have put it in the presentation. You're correct, but I honestly can't remember the value now.
No problem. Just remember to include it when you write up your study.
Sorry, it was muted. We are having some sounding problems here. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying it's okay for now, but don't forget to include it when you write your study. And so your sample size came up with 15 per group.
Yeah.
That's a big group of adolescents to keep interested in doing it. Believe me, we had, now in our study, of course, they were overweight and obese individuals, and we had a big trouble keeping them for 12 weeks. But you know, you may have to lower your expectations, and it's not a big deal if you end up, let's say, with 8 per group or 10 per group. It's not the end of the world, because these studies are very difficult to run. So don't be discouraged if you lose a lot of them on the way. It is what it is.
Okay.
So,
thank you for those words, because that's something that improves my sleep, to be honest.
oh yes, and I know we've been there, and my students get really disappointed because the girls drop out.
Yeah.
But you know what? Even with 10, you may actually, these markers are quite sensitive, so you may see some differences. So don't be discouraged, but lower your expectations. When I saw 50, but yeah,
I hope so.
You know, yeah,
that's my first time
girls
doing it too.
are not an easy group. So
No.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I'm done for now. I'm good. If something comes up as Dimitris goes on, we can probably clarify in the end.
Thank you very much, Professor, for all the appointments, all those questions. It was really important for me, and it's an honor to be to have you in this process. I feel really grateful. Thank you.
That was great. I had lots of these points, Nota. So
that's why I wanted to go first, so you don't.
Yeah, that's why. So I can go further than this. That was good. Yeah, first of all, well done, Pedro. This is a really, really nice presentation. I like the structure you had, how you build the rationale of the importance of the study. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, there is a break, I think. Can you hear me?
Sorry, Jimmy, just
No worries.
No worries.
Trying to
The sound here is terrible.
Let me know if you want me to test it. Let me know if you want me to test it. Let me know if you want to test it. Hello.
Can you hear me, Professor?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Aumenta aqui essa forma. Ainda não foi. Aqui.
Is it
Is it
working now?
Working, yeah?
More
So
minutes.
proceed.
Sorry, Demetrius.
No worries.
No. Oi? Corações aqui. Próximo. É, mas não aparece nada.
Professor, could you say something just to test the audio?
Hola, ¿cómo está? Soy
Yeah.
Dimitris.
No, not working. I'm really sorry about that.
Mas não tá indo.
Un cerveza Brahma, por favor.
It was a testing.
Sorry.
Okay. I think now it's gonna work.
I hope so. Demetrius?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Finally.
can hear you clear and sound.
It's never late. Sorry.
Okay.
Right? Working well?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, sorry about that, guys.
No worries. So, I'll just start. First of all, congratulations. This is a really nice and clear presentation. I like the
Thank you.
structure you had, how you build the rationale, you explain your outcomes, the importance of the HIT for training, and you link it with your outcomes. So we'll start basically by taking first a few of the backgrounds. Because you mentioned females, and you have bone markers, dynamic outcomes, and static outcomes, which is
Okay.
really nice to see, but we'll see a bit of the justification of that. So in terms of the 12 weeks of high-intensity training, why did you select 12 weeks and not 10 weeks or 8 weeks or 20 weeks?
I choose 12 weeks because from certain information, it says that this process goes in a 3 to 4 weeks period. So I actually chose the minimum because of the difficulty that I would challenge in the project. So it was based on this type of information that, as Professor Nota said, that might be different for adolescents, but the data available that I had said that this minimum timing would be 12 weeks. That is 3 months.
Okay, so during those 12 weeks, you try to specify a bit of the intensity for the high intensity interval training. So you said 8 to 10 times at 1 minute at max velocity based on the incremental test.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sorry.
how did you select the 8 to 10 times? And will there be any progress during those 12 weeks or not?
The 8 to 10 was because in the first month they would do 8 times of the effort, and we would increase one round after each month, ending with 10 bouts of 1 minute effort and 1 minute of rest. We were discussing in the past weeks that we will also need to do another incremental test in the midterm of the project. So around the 6th week, we would do another incremental test to adjust the intensity of the exercise, because there can be an improve in their VO2 max that would impact the intensity that they would be working between the mid and the end of the intervention. Intervention.
Okay, so and you'll follow the same break in the intensity in the intervals of 1 minute active and 1 minute passive, both for the cycle ergometer and the treadmill.
Yeah, they're going to be both passive.
Okay.
Just to because we want to only associate the impact in the high intensity of the activity in the effort time, not the resting time.
Okay, that sounds good. You have a good justification for each one of them. So why 1 year post peak high velocity for girls, and how you will select the specific sample that you make sure that they're 1 year post peak high velocity?
1 year past the high peak of height velocity, because you can separate the samples according to their pubertal stages, and that would be a cutoff point from those who are going through the process, the puberty, around the 2 years around the PhD. That would be the most sensitive period of the bone, according to some studies. So we choose 1 year after, because we would control the differences between pubertal and post-pubertal adolescents.
Okay.
And to assess that, we are going to do apply the somatic maturation equations, because that's what we have available here.
Okay, so when you go to Recreative and find those girls, how you're going to select them? Are you going to ask? Are you going to calculate? You will go based on age. You will go in a class and say that's the age, and how you will calculate the peak high velocity to select only those that are 1 year post peak high velocity.
Yeah, that would be more like an exclusion criteria than an inclusion criteria.
So sometimes you need to think about selection bias. So how you select your sample, there are different equations to calculate peak high velocity. So there is one with Sarah Moore from 2015, the medicine science, which is the simplest one, age and height. So once you go for recruitment, you have it on your inclusion or exclusion criteria. You can say, okay, I'm calculating, and based on that equation, if your height and age is that, and the peak high velocity, as I calculated, is 1 year post peak high velocity, you can be part of the study. Otherwise, they don't meet the criteria, and it will be a nightmare to bring them at the lab to assess them and then say no, sorry, because then you have exclusion bias.
Okay, yeah.
If that makes sense. But you need to clarify how the peak high velocity is going to measure, and you have it in the information sheet once you go for the recruitment. Because that's easy, you can do it in Excel. If you don't have it, I can send it to you. Sarah's equation is the most widely used, I think, globally now.
Okay.
There are others, and the standard error is increasing as we go away, but let's not go there. So that's the first point. Another point I have, now that we're talking about the sample size, Nota Panayota mentioned that your sample size is based on DEXA, not on the bone markers.
Yes.
So and you did the power calculation based on the Lu 2022 paper, which this is based on BMD from DEXA.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, have they indicated that they've seen adaptation BMD after 12 weeks?
Sorry, Professor, how did they indicate? I
So
couldn't.
your power calculation is based on a paper from Lu 2022, and that's BMD by DEXA.
Yes.
So did they measure, did they see changes based on training or adaptation in BMD after 12 weeks?
Yes.
So they found adaptation. I haven't seen that paper. Out of curiosity, I would love to see that. But
Yeah.
I think because the bone markers, I know we use BMD as primary outcome for this specific project. You might need to think if you want to use as primary outcome the P1NP and the CTX as the dynamic outcomes, which they're more prone to change.
Yeah.
First of all, and second, because you need to have a rationale. Even if you go for the BMD, it's fine as long as you understand. For example, do you know how the BMD is changing during those years or during peak high velocity? How the markers, you saw the BMD, but do you have the reference data how the P1P in CTX change during puberty, like in normal values without doing anything?
No.
So
No,
that's
don't have it.
important to include as a rationale in your thesis and in the slides. I can send you a couple of papers which you can see the reference values for P1P and CTX. There is one study from Germany and one from Denmark. So you can see basically, okay, at the age of 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or anything, how much is the average of a big population for P1P and CTX?
Okay.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Because you need to know, okay, how does this change normally? And then how an exercise program is going to change it. Yeah, I think Nota sent 12-week diet and exercise. Yes, it's in the paper that you can see as well. That's
Yes,
one point.
This is the paper, 12 weeks intervention in obese and overweight girls. But because we did the changes in CTX, you can use this paper, and I'm sure you're gonna come down to maybe 8 participants.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
So the point of using the dynamic markers at such a protocol of heat is, first of all, because it becomes more feasible, because you'll have small number of participants and you have a relevant study to support it, and then you don't risk it as well having a BMD to not see a change, because we know from the physiology of the bone that it takes more time. If you see it, that's great with all the outcomes you have, but if you don't, then at least you're safe in that aspect.
Okay.
Something else. I would like to see that Lu paper 2022, because I was not very sure how this can work. Again, you need to have the effect size in meter squared, as Nota said. And then, did you have in the inclusion or exclusion criteria whether you will have normal weight, overweight, or obese population? You exclude them or not?
Those adolescents with overweight and obese are going to be there. That's an inclusion criteria. So we're not gonna include them in the study if they're overweight and obese. And that's we changed the parameter. We're not gonna use the BMI from the World Health Organization.
Mm-hmm.
We intend to use another cutoff point for that because we understand.
Task force, which one are you going to use?
It's from Cole, from 2000.
Yeah, from London. Okay, as long as during the screening and the inclusion process, you need to check that as well on top of the peak high velocity, whether they meet the criteria for normal weights for that, which is something to consider. But definitely as an action point, I will use the bone markers as primary outcome and the power calculation for that, because it will save you from nightmares later on. Okay, then you said if your primary outcome will be on the bone markers, you need to think how definitely the dietary factors will be affecting it, and also the other physical activity, right?
Sorry, Professor. Could you repeat, please?
Yeah. So you have do you have in mind how to control the diet during those 12 weeks
Okay.
and the physical activity of the participants?
Yeah. I missed something.
You are controlling the diet.
Yeah.
Physical activity, yes.
Yes, yeah.
So
We're- we were not controlling, like before this presentation, we were not controlling the energy and other variables such as protein. We thought that blood analysis would be enough, but now we're going to change that, and we're going to control the diet by using a 3-day food record as suggested by Professor Nota. And we are also going to control those adolescents according to their physical activity level.
Yeah. So it depends. If you have a small physiological experimental type of study, the dietary, you can control diet either by using a 24-hour record, 3-day, or a 7-week. Because if you have a week of training and you want to see what is happening in that whole week that they also train, and separate the days of training as well to control it or take the average, you can do that as well. But this is something to think about. In terms of the physical activity questionnaire, the questionnaire you selected by Becky, I'm not sure if it includes muscle and bone specific activities. There is a questionnaire developed in Australia by Professor Beck. I think it's Beck and someone else. And anyway, there is one which is bone specific physical activity questionnaire.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
You can use that instead of the general one because it's more specific to your outcome.
Okay. Yeah. I completely forgot about that questionnaire. It makes me
Yeah,
much
because I think we used it. I know Romulo and Ricardo, they know that already. And then accelerometry, my favorite part. Why 5 days? Which epoch? And why the Edwards cutoffs?
Oh my God.
Could you repeat, please, Professor? I'm sorry.
So why
points?
5 days? Why the accelerometer 5 days? Why the Edwards cutoff? And which epoch are you going to use?
Okay, that is a tricky question for me. The accelerometer, was the cutoff points and the suggestion of using the accelerometers was based on a conversation with another professor that studies physical activity with adolescents, and we were discussing, and that was one of his suggestions, to use 5 days cutoff points and the Edward cutoff points. To be honest, I'm not aware if that's the main.
So what will be the frequency of collecting data in the accelerometer?
Yeah. I think for adolescents, it must be less than.
No, look at me.
No, I'm just trying to remember. Not looking for your suggestion. It must be less than once. I can't remember the measure of the epoch right now.
Forget about the timing frequency. Think that you go to the school and you see a girl of the age of 11 or 13 to move. How frequently do you want to measure their activity?
Yeah,
Do you want to measure it every minute, every 30 seconds, every 10 seconds, every 5 seconds, every 1 second?
I'm not really sure about this.
So, because the pattern of the movement activity during growth is basically really short. If you put an epoch of 60 seconds, you are going to miss like 1 minute of activity.
That's a lot.
So the shorter the epoch, the better it is. But that doesn't mean that you might over-predict something. Because if it's 1 second and they just move, for example, a bit of the hip bar and you have it at the hip, so it's fine, then it's better. I will suggest to use 1 second epoch, and possibly for the full period of a week. So you have all your training inside and weekends and weekdays.
So use they should use for 7 days. Then I will exclude the first and the second day.
1
And
second
use the-
epoch at the hip. I mean, you cannot use, usually right and left hip, the reliability is fine. But let's say use it 7 days, 1 second epoch, and then you include, you can select as well. You can basically take off the times of the training sessions. Because once you have the accelerometer, something that no one has done is if you do that training and you take in a diary the day, like the activity, let's say that I'm going to exercise with Ricardo in the park to run around Presidente Prudente as we did when I was there, and I have my accelerometry, I can export that and correlate it or relate it with the bone markers. So you can basically quantify the relationship between the physical activity, the training session that you will have. By saying, okay, this is the time from 5 to 6, I went for a run in the park with Romulo and Ricardo, which is the training session that they will do at the treadmill or at the bike. So you just, and then once you export the data, you summarize that and you take the exact intensity using the accelerometer of your session, which is a different paper at all.
So you suggest not using the accelerometer weeks before?
You will use it already for 7. So the plan is to use the accelerometer when? Before the training session, during or after?
Yeah, we were collecting those physical activity data before, 1 week before the starting of the intervention, and after.
Okay, but how do you control for the activity that they do during the intervention?
Yeah.
Plus, if you do it pre, post, and during, then during you can control as a covariate, a strong covariate with objective data. And then if you have the diary of the activity, of the physical activity, you can quantify the intensity of your intervention in accelerations with G. Does this make sense?
Yes, totally.
Because you simply say, okay, from 5 to 6, I did that training session. What's the load of that session? If you have the heart rate, you have the bone markers and everything else, it will be quite interesting to see that.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Don't use the Edwards cutoff points. All
No.
the cutoff points, they're based on cardiovascular outcomes and not muscle and bones, which we're trying to change that now.
Oh, okay.
Ideally, you should use raw acceleration, but that's a difficult story. You can use the most relevant muscle and bone thresholds that you can find. And there are a couple of papers I can send.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
So let's move from the accelerometers because I think I had too much of them. So the markers, no said about the data factors that I will suggest to go again for 7 days if you can. And why do you need to assess calcium, like total calcium and vitamin D?
We thought of using them as a measure of their diet status. Of course, vitamin D has an important role in the bone metabolism.
Which part of vitamin D? Vitamin D has many components. Which
it's the 125D.
Yeah, 25 vitamin D.
Yeah, it's the one that is produced by the skin.
That can be interesting, but for the calcium, do you think always how do these change normally? If you don't do anything, how do these markers change?
Sorry?
So if you don't do exercise, how do these markers change normally? Do you have lots of variation in those markers?
No, especially calcium.
calcium is not going to move at all. And I did the same mistake. I measured total calcium. It was waste of time and money. Yeah, it is waste of money. So it's better to use sclerostin or calcium or some of the other markers that Nota can tell you if the lab that you have there, rather than total calcium. Just measure it in the intake, how much they have, and that should be enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the lab you use the Ross biochemical markers. You need to have the range and sensitivity of them. So you need to be really careful when you select the markers, because if for the aids that you're going to analyze, you don't know the sensitivity and the range they can detect, then you will not see anything. And we've seen that with Nota, and Fabio can let you more of the biochemical markers as well. So the sensitivity and the range as well is really important. So you can see like the different papers. What else? Yeah, that's important. We didn't discuss that. How are you going to check for the compliance in the intervention?
The compliance of the intervention.
How do you know that they do the intervention? Will they do it always at the lab? Will they come to the lab?
They will come to the lab, yeah.
So it's 100. So you expect the intervention to have high compliance because you have visit. So what is the retention strategy? Do you have any retention strategy to keep the girls entertained, engaged, to highlight the importance of doing that and everything else? Will they get any feedback? Or
yeah, I think in the first moment, we are trying to recruit by convenience. During the promotion of the project, we are going through the schools and the universities that are close to the campus, close to the laboratory, so we can lower the risk of they not coming because of distance and this type of thing. We're also making it clear that the feedbacks of the project of the intervention that include the exams, the blood exams, the evaluations, and the monitoring of their health status and growing are really important, and we are going to give that to them. That's something we are trying to highlight during the promotion. And that's basically the two strategies that we are focusing in that. The benefits of the high intensity interval training for the health, the exams that they are gonna have as a feedback of the participating in the intervention, the costs that those exams would have if they would do it in a private laboratory or anything else that they can take those and go to Needham. And we are trying to focus so far on this type of things.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you have a retention and sometimes to just engage with them, you or any other students, to keep them engaged and giving them in material or feedback, or for them to visit the university to see the positive impact of that, they're really good. Because it's really difficult to retain it, and in that age, and it's just difficult. And then, so what randomization are you going to follow? So how are you going to randomize your participants to control or hit?
We're gonna randomize them using using the software. We're gonna like randomize the numbers from the participants, and the first one goes through this type. I think that's what randomization, right? The first one goes to the
cycling heat, the second one goes to the running heat, and the third one goes to the control. That's what I thought so far.
So it'll be simple randomization.
Simple randomization, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not blocking. Simple randomization.
Okay, and you said on your analysis you indicated only one way ANOVA, right?
Yeah,
So how are you going to control for the confounders?
I in the project I said one way ANOVA.
I think so. It was one way. So if you have any covariates, how are you going to control it? If there are any differences, for example, during those 12 weeks, how are you going to control that?
Yeah, I don't think that would be the most appropriate approach.
So just think if obviously you have all of these outcomes just pre and post, or also during. How many time points you're thinking? 1 and 2?
Yeah, we'll have 2 points baseline.
Yeah, probably you can, if you want to, you might need to think if they have differences between your groups, how are you going to control for those differences after the randomization? Because if you come up, let's say 10, 10, and 10, and those groups differ, the dietary parts or the bone specific or anything, you expect to have different response to the bone markers or DEXA, because if someone has less load, expect to have higher potential for increase in the market. So you need to think how I'm going to control that once I have it. Ideally for me, if you're going to measure again at the midpoint of the 6 weeks, the high load, the mid and you control within the intervention. You have 1, 2, 3. But I'm just throwing ideas. And if you can measure that, and even if you don't have the amount, if you save it or anything else, if you have that, then it will be really powerful to have those outcomes, not for the study itself, but for many others.
If I may interject here, Pedro, doing that will actually keep the girls more controlled in the study.
Yeah.
Seeing them more often is actually going to increase your chances to keep them in the study. So bring them back,
for
so
sure.
bring them back at 6 weeks is actually a good idea for many reasons.
So in 6 weeks, we should perform all those first assessments, and
Except
that's
DEXA.
something.
Except
Except
Except DEXA.
but for sure that would be something else to keep them to the study.
Because you have retention, you have lots of benefits. The internal validity and reliability of your study, the compliance is increasing, everything goes up. You quantify your intervention, because if you have pre and post, and so okay, they've done that. But if you have like during the week, and that week they perform the intervention, and you take all those measurements, then you have like a study itself and say that's the intervention. Take it.
Nice, yeah, totally agree.
So this is something to think, yeah. But I think that's all I had. I'm not gonna ask more.
Thank you very much, Professor. That was some great and appointments that will increase
significantly the quality of the project. Thank you very much for being here. It's also an honor to have you here in this process. Okay.
Okay? Is no easy questions, no hard question.
At least for you.
Yeah, I have one. Pedro, is the messages I would like to know about why you choose the incremental test. Inclination is the 2%, no 1%, because the hack protocol is the classic protocol. Normally, the inclination is the 1%, but you put the 2%. Why?
Yeah. The first design of this project, we based the protocol on the study that I presented that analyzed the impact of the high intensity interval training acutely, exercise acutely. And the protocol considered a 2% slope that would also increase during the stages. So after a few increases in velocity, there would be an increase in the slope, and we consider that protocol that was published and valid. But then we noticed that increasing the slope, actually, there was a discussion, and we thought that excluding those increases in slope would be, or actually those increases in the slope would have some significant impact because of the increases in the muscle contractions in the treadmill running. So I decided to work only with the velocity, increases in velocity, but the rest of the protocol that includes the setting of starting at 8 kilometers per hour and 2% slope, we maintain it the same.
Okay. Is normally for the bone metabolism, this protocol?
That was used to study the bone metabolism.
Yeah. And how long time you can the intensity?
We're gonna adjust it according to yes. Is that
My suggestion is the blood in 2 weeks. In 4, 6 exercise training can increase the intensity. We will apply the 100% the velocity, the peak velocity, and after 3, 4 acute exercise can decrease the intensity.
okay?
And in 3 weeks, we can evaluate the velocity
Okay.
and adjust the velocity.
Um,
Normally 3 weeks,
3 weeks.
50 days.
Do you believe that doing the progressive effort protocol, the higher frequency would not cause an impact on the compliance of the sample? That's an honest question.
Yeah, I don't know, because adolescent can be different than adults, but I normally in physiology exercise, we evaluate 3 weeks.
Okay.
So normally the change, the intensity.
Yes.
And I will invite you apply the VO2 test in my
Yes.
laboratory, and we can monitor the change, the physiological change. And because we can, the 6 weeks, this protocol can be the no high intensity training, but
Becomes a
moderate training.
Yeah.
Can change this, and
Yes.
can discover the chance. Because the one should be maximal exercise, no maximal exercise.
Doing that, would it still be necessary to increase the volume of the activity, or
No,
Like,
no volume.
we could keep the changes of the
Yeah.
volume by increasing one stage every month? So we increase one stage every month, and we
No.
adjust, or we could then,
No.
if you are adjusting the intensity of the exercise, we could then perform the 10 bouts for during the whole
because
protocol.
It's different. You manipulate the intensity or volume.
Yes, yes, yeah, and
That you have the same volts, but it's the adequate intensity.
okay,
It's this one detail you need.
okay,
You need follow this, and the change can be the adolescent. Okay, no change the velocity, but others can change the velocity. You need to check this. And it's 3 weeks. Applied one maximal test, and because adults we observe the change, the VO2 max, and the change the velocity and VO2.
okay, yeah,
With
in
3
3 weeks,
weeks.
only 3 weeks.
Yes. It's one suggestion.
Yeah,
And-
surely evaluate now.
Okay. But why the high intensity interval train and non moderate continuous intensity train?
Because as I pointed, it's been shown that vigorous intensity of the exercise or physical activity, it's been reported that it's the main determinant of bone changes in adolescents. Some studies shows that moderate intensity may promote some different changes, but they both moderate and vigorous can promote changes in bone, but those changes might be different. So we chose to use the high intensity interval training to assess, okay, there is no impact and there's the impact. If the intensity is that important, would impact of the activity also be important in this contest? So associate one determinant that it's inside that is one of the determinants, that is the intensity, and also the impact. So we are trying to associate these two protocols, one with the impact and another one without the impact, to see if, okay, in a high intensity domain of the exercise with no impact, would there be an adaptive response of the bone to the protocol?
Okay. Yeah, what I had in your presentation related to discuss about the lactate. The lactate is related with the bone metabolism. Like that is related, the metabolic stress is related with the bone metabolism. Why no measuring the lactate levels? Because if the lactate is related with the bone metabolism, the high intensity in treadmill can can lead one positive in by Skype invite, and can these lactate levels during acute exercise and can induce one adaptation better in treadmill than the cycle.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not aware of the association between lactate and bone metabolism. We thought of analyzing the lactate in the just for the prescription of the intervention, but due to budget limitations, we decided to use that protocol that does not use the lactate threshold.
The acute exercise increase the lactate.
Yeah.
And
That-
this increase can be more in the treadmill than the cycle.
Okay.
And this, in the each session, can modulate the bone metabolism. And this, after 20 weeks, can induce one more adaptation in treadmill than the cycle. I don't know. We can reach this, and I
That would be
put
interesting.
more information because the increase can, I don't know, increase more lactate, the cortisol,
Yes.
and this factor can
Affect that.
modulate the bone metabolism.
Should we assess that during the whole protocol, or just one session?
No, yeah, can be the rest, but it's very interesting if you evaluate the acute session.
Every session?
No,
Or only one session? Okay, the first session.
In the last session.
You assess
Or
this
the
value.
middle also.
Yeah.
Can be, but this is one master project. This is the no. I know. Like your life. It's one idea because they like lactate and cortisol can participate in this bone metabolism. Like the group can think about this.
That's something
The
really
relation
interesting.
that metabolism, chest and bone metabolism.
Yeah. I think that's something that it's really interesting to
Yeah,
do.
we can talk about this. And the other point is about the sympathetic drive.
Okay.
You have one relation, the sympathetic drive, the parasympathetic drive, and my strategy is evaluate the parasympathetic and sympathetic drive before, the middle, and after. It can find one interesting data.
Yeah,
about this.
so do a VSC evaluation.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Why the 2 weeks for the 2 times 4 weeks the training, no 3, 4, 5 times 4 weeks? The 2 weeks is not for induce the adaptation.
The 2 weeks was chosen because
Normally the people train, the car train
3
2
weeks.
times,
Yeah.
but normally the people train 3, 4
Yes,
times 4
yes.
weeks. 2 weeks is enough for the cardiorespiratory, the muscle, the cardiovascular adaptation, the bone adaptation.
To the bone, I don't know. That might be. For the cardiorespiratory, that's a minimum, I guess. But we chose the 2 times a week more because of a logistic problem than we could go for 3 weeks. Yes, I think that would be the ideal, but it was a choice to go with
Yeah,
twice a week.
My last question is about CTX1 and P1 and P.
Okay.
You evaluate the baseline and now, the middle, and the
Follow up. In the follow up.
the after the 20 weeks the train. But in rest, these proteins can no change in these points. How I don't know how long time this protein change in blood with acute exercise. If this protein baseline values after 2 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 24 hours. I don't know if the techniques in rest we can observe the difference because it's nanogram per ml. It's higher concentration in blood. And I think if you evaluate the fourth session, one acute session, and okay, the CTX1 and P1 and P increase in theirs are the similar change in treadmill, the cycle, but after 6 weeks, this increase more in treadmill than the cycle, and after 20 weeks, 20 weeks,
12 weeks.
12 weeks, this increase is similar again in this group, but the middle is different. Because this, and I think is 2 months is long time, but for change the protein levels can be short time. And if you evaluate the acute exercise, the acute session can observe more change.
Okay. So you think we should analyze, like in the first session of the training,
Yeah.
collect blood for the past 5 minutes, and then 1 hour, and then
I don't know.
24 hours.
I don't
and
know.
then analyze it again after the last session. Do you think that would be a better response to your
You
question?
have one acute response and an acute chronic response. And
Okay.
you observe the adaptation
yeah.
specific about this problem.
You need to know how it works.
In the different the treadmill and the cycle, and we can, because I think the IL-6 after 3 months the IL-6 is decreased the peak after acute exercise, but increase the receptors in the cell. It is one adaptation. Decrease the peak. I don't know this adaptation CTX1 and P1 and P, and it's the same adaptation. I don't know. The 3 months is good. No need more time. The 6 months for you observe the change in the rest, and the rest can be the flat. No have change. My protocol 3 months the train no change this protein, but during exercise can change the peak.
Okay.
Because increase the receptors in the cell.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something really nice to observe.
Yeah.
I think that would even respond to our question better.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Now is my last question. And the leptin levels is very important.
Sorry. The
Leptin.
the leptin level. Okay.
Yeah, because 3 months we can change the fat body and can change the leptin levels. The leptin is related with the bone metabolism.
Okay.
I suggest you, because Ricardo Ricardo have this kit in laboratory, you can evaluate the lectin, and we can associate this with the bone metabolism and we can do associate about the lectin levels and bone metabolism.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. And
It, the lectin then can be included in the same protocol of the analysis, or it's
Yeah,
very different?
yeah. So congratulations, Pedro. I have others questions, but we can talk like no too late. Congratulations. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much for inviting me, Romulo and Pedro.
Thank you very much, Professor, for being here. Although you do not work specifically with bone, I know that you will make important and great contributions to the project regarding other aspects that, because we are too focused on the bone and
Yeah.
some others, there are things that might go past, go missed in the designing of the project. Thank you very much. It was an honor to have you here.
Now, I will meet with Professor Majota in the MIPS.
Pessoal, agora, o professor se reuniu, pedi que vocês compartilhem com eles.
No, no.
But that's really nice. I think that's the very first time I hear you guys talking in Greek. Which, yeah, it's a quite nice language. I'm not sure, but this sound reminds me German a little bit. I don't know.
No,
don't
it's
know.
mostly, it sounds mostly like Spanish, actually.
Spanish, yeah,
Oh.
it's more.
It has nothing to do with Spanish.
Yeah,
We have a Colombian student here. Dimitri knows him.
yeah.
And he said, oh, the sound is not similar to Spanish. I don't know.
Yeah, because he's Spanish. But when English people hear us,
They think we're Spanish.
they think we are Spanish. But
Ah.
for Spanish people, obviously, we don't
Yeah.
sound Spanish.
No worries, no worries. But it's just nice because I think that the very first time I have the opportunity to see the Greek language. That's nice. It's different. The sound is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm interrupting the process. So, Fabio. Yeah, you have to read. You have to read.
No, no. Okay. The last step is the Pedro's the qualification. This one, normally we read one document, one full document, and I'm sorry, my English. Okay, this document participated the March 2023, the 10 a.m. Pro Beach Conference. The members of the jury, Dr. Romulo Araújo Fernandes, the supervisor of the Department of Physical Education, São Paulo State University, from Presidente Prudente, Professor Fábio Lira of the Department of Physical Education, São Paulo State University, and Dr. Panajota Klentro, the online participation of the Department of Kinesiology, the Faculty of Applied Health Science, the Brook University, Canada, and Dr. Dimitris. Oh, Dimitris.
Valahopoulos.
It's a nightmare.
Valahopoulos is right. Yeah. The online participation of the Children Health and Exercise Research Center, Sport and Health Science, University of Exeter, England, where we met the analysis the academic performance of the master student, the Pedro Henrique Narciso pitch. The part of the terms of the postgraduate program is movement science. The jury considered the candidate approved in their qualification process. There being no further comments, the document was being signed the president of the jury, the Romulo Araújo Fernandes. Pedro, congratulations.
Okay. Yeah, we will give Pedro the opportunity to speak something. And of course, if he says something wrong, you can change the final result. So, Pedro, no pressure at all. You can talk.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, we cannot listen to you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna say a few words, just some thanks to some people that were really important until this part of the process. First, I want to thank my family for all the support that they give me and for everything they do to me. Queria agradecer a minha família aqui na presença do meu pai por todo o apoio que sempre me dão, pela confiança no que eu faço. I wanna thank the evaluation board, and here I'm gonna consider my supervisor, Professor Romulo, for trusting me this project. It really means a lot to me. Thank you, Professor, for believing in me. Thank you for the evaluation board, Professor Nota, Professor Dimitris, and Professor Fabio, for everything that has been said here, for all appointments, all the suggestions, all the questions, for pushing me with the tricky questions. It really means a lot to me too. It's an honor to have such a qualified evaluation board today. I want to thank Ricardo because he's always helping me with everything in this process. He was a guy that I discussed a lot in the beginning when I was writing my project, always giving me so many suggestions and trying to put me in the right direction. Thank you very much, my friend. I can't say much about him. I want to thank Anna because we've been discussing a lot about this project. He's gonna probably gonna work with me in this project. Some variables he's gonna be responsible for. Thank you very much for all the contributions, for making me some questions that the evaluation board asked me today. It really helped me. People from the group that always help me during the meetings, during the collecting of data. Andrea, Safado, they are here. Safado, that's too good that you don't understand what Safado is. But Leslie, thank you very much for all the support. I want to thank my friends who were here. Santiago is part of the project and always gives me help, always make me laugh too. Thank you very much, my friend. Carol, I want to say a special thank to you because you've been helping me with the promotion of the project. Eu quero muito agradecer você por ter, nesse início, me ajudado com a divulgação do projeto. Uma visita só já abriu uma série de inscrições aí, então, de coração, muito obrigado. Obrigado, Thaís. Obrigado, B, por estarem aqui. Isso transmite uma confiança muito importante. Obrigado pela amizade também. And I don't have much to say anymore. I said it enough. I said too much, I guess. Thank you all. Thank you all. And thank you for those who are watching on YouTube, I guess, if there's someone watching.
Okay, guys, just before we finish, we'd like to take a picture here, so you try to put your the big screen, and of course for the social media. So yeah, you were able to put both of them.
Yeah, I guess just don't know how.
Just 1 second.
Okay,
Oh,
nice.
so
Tem como fixar os dois?
yeah. Oh, guys, sorry about our. I'm not writing a proper tool, but as you
Always
know,
like that.
that's the Brazilian script, so it's terrible. It's something like 36. Recall.
So Romilo,
Yeah.
when should we expect to know about Pedro's application for the exchange program?
Yeah. Do you have any deadline for the
No.
final results?
No, Professor, and that's a problem with the program. They told it's in the website that they would inform by this spring, but they didn't say a data, and they said they would only inform those who are approved, not those who are not approved. So I want to send an email to the Global Scholar Office this week to know if they have any updates about the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Assuming the period would start in September.
Yeah.
Probably they have to give us a feedback in June, the maximum July. I think you have to apply to buy tickets.
Yeah.
So I think June, July, maybe they will give us feedback. But thank you very much for accepting to work with us in this application. And I really, really love to see Pedro with you during this semester. But thank you very much for the semester.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Okay, picture, Pedro. You are in the middle because you are the start of the event.
For the camera.
Okay, it's done. So once more, Professor Dmitry, Professor Panajota, thank you very much for this participation today.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, so I hope to see you guys in the future. I know I will see Dimitris in September. It's amazing to see Dimitris again. And I hope in the future, maybe be able to bring you to Brazil for a short visit, 1 week.
Of course.
So I will try in the São Paulo Research Foundation. So thank you so much for all your contribution for this work. And you have my work and Pedro's as well, that we work hard in order to respond properly to all the comments and bring a final version of the research project. And of course, manuscript papers responding this really nice question. So thank you very much, guys, for this participation today.
Thank you for the invitation. Bye.
Thank you for the invitation, guys.
Thank you
Abrahos.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.